Hey guys, in today's tutorial we'll be looking at a cargo baggy pant. Okay, now this cargo pants will have a cargo pocket. So I folded this fabric into two. I have 16 inches as the base for this. At the top edge there, I'll take out 2 inches as the margin. Now this 2 inches, I marked it because I'll be using the same length for the back panel, so I will know what I am taking out for the back panel. And we'll be using this elastic for the waistband, and it's about 2 inches. So I will subtract 2 inches from the length of the trouser. I placed that 2 inches on the waistline and I marked 9 inches downwards for the hip line. And I'm drawing a horizontal line at that point. From the waistline again, taking out that 2 inches again, I'll get my crotch depth of 11 inches and I added one more inch, that's 12 inches. So I'm using 12 inches as the front crotch. I'll mark it and then draw a horizontal line at that point. Now on the crotch, I am placing a quarter of the hip circumference plus 1.5 inches as the ease allowance. That measurement I am marking exactly on the hip line and the waistline, and I will connect this dot vertically. Now from that vertical line, I am placing 3 inches for the front crotch. Okay, and then I'll connect that point to meet the hip line on that vertical line that I drew. So with this, we have formed the crotch for the front panel. Now I'll measure a total of what I have at the crotch line there, and it's about 16 inches. So I'll place that all the way to the length. The length of this trouser is 43 inches. So I'll be measuring it from the waistline, 43 inches downwards. So like I said, I am placing that 16 inches all the way to that length and then connecting the dots. With that, I'll cut out the front panel. And then I'm placing it on the back panel with 3 inches extra for the back crotch. And then I'm using 2 inches as the seam allowance. I'll mark these 2 inches from the hip line upwards to the waistline and beyond, extending the crotch of the back like this. And I will connect the 2 inches which I have and then link it to the back crotch. So when I'm done with that, I will then use 2 inches as the same allowance from the crotch downwards all the way to the length. Okay, I'm using 2 inches as the same allowance. So I'll connect it all the way to the length. And at the waistline there, I'll extend the waistline to the back and go upward with 1.5 inches. I'll connect that point to the side back slantly like this, after which I'll cut the back panel out. I'll set the back panel aside because I'll be making a slant pocket for the front panel. So I went inwards with 2 inches at the waistline and I measured 7 inches downwards from the waistline. I'll connect the 2 inches I have inwards on the waistline to the 7 inches I have downwards from the waistline. And then I'm using this pocket. Now this is the simplest way of sewing a slant pocket. I'm using this fabric which I folded into two, 7 inches, and then the length of it is 11 inches. So the width is 7 inches on fold. Opening it will be about 14 inches. I'll open it up and place one edge aligning with the edge of the side front like this. And then I will cut what I have. You see that line I connected from the waistline to the 7 inches downwards? That's the pocket opening. So I'll cut it with that pocket pieces I have underneath. I'm cutting the four of them together. After cutting it out, This is what you have as the pocket opening, and bring out that piece, that part that I cut out along with the pocket opening. I'll pin it to the pocket opening like this, and I'll take it to the machine and I'll sew out 1/2 inch. And then I'll sew 1/2 inch from that waistline downwards to the end of the pocket opening, and then top stitch. Now you're top stitching on the pocket piece. So after top stitching it, you fold it inwards, and then make sure you have replaced that 2 inches you cut out from the front panel waistline. Okay, that 2 inches, so that pocket piece replaces it. So I'll pin it down and then stitch it at the waistline just to keep it in one spot and it will not shift. And then when I'm done with that, I will sew out the pocket like this, and I will stop it at beneath the end of the pocket opening. After that, I'll give it a good press. This is what we have. So when I'm done with that, I'll use 1/2 inch to join the front panel at the crotch. Same thing for the back panel. When I'm done joining the crotch both on the back and the front panels, I'll then bring the back panel on the front panel to join it at the side. Now when you're joining the back to the front, you will join it and stop at the pocket opening up there. This is how I sew it. So I'll sew it from the waistline to the pocket, to the end of the pocket opening. Okay, just so I will not sew down the pocket piece underneath. I'll then take it from the hem, same 1/2 inch, and then sew it to the pocket opening. Okay, thereby I'll lift that. When I'm done with the slant, with joining that side, I added this cargo pocket. Now I have a separate tutorial for this because it would have made this tutorial too long, so I'll link it in the description box. So when I had placed the cargo pocket, I then folded in the hem allowance. Okay, iron it and stitch it, after which I will join the back crotch and the front crotch together. I'll sew it all the way from one hem to the other hem. I've given it a good press. We'll now work on the elastic waistband. So I'll measure what I have on the waistline of the trouser, which is about 51 inches. And then I cut this band, which is 52 inches, and the height of which is 5 inches. I'll join it, I'll join it and make it into two, make it one piece. And then I'll fold it into two like this. When you fold it into two, it becomes 2.5 inches height. Okay, I'll fold it into two, and then I'll sew 1/2 inch all the way round, and I'll leave about 3 inches, so I'll pass the elastic. I'll bring in the elastic, which I measured 31 inches. Like I said, this elastic is about 2 inches. Okay, and then I'll measure 31 inches length. I'll use a safety pin it to one side, and then tuck it in through this band. Now as you're tucking it in, make sure that it's plain. I'll seal up that 3 inches hole, and then I'll be sewing 1/2 inch from the top there, so, and 1/2 inch again downwards. I ended up making 3 lines, okay, just for aesthetics. I make it 3 lines, just 1/2 inch interval, which I will then make sure that this elastic goes round the waistline of the trouser. So if this tutorial adds any value to you at all, give me a thumbs up. Leave a comment for me in the comment section. Subscribe if you like my tutorials. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in my next video.